So just record, wait for it to kick in. So hi everyone, my name is Timothy McKay, founder of OK Ready. We're here for our second background episode into the SA Cyber Edition series. And we're joined here by Paula Oliver, the SA Cyber Node Manager. Hi Paula.
Hi Tim, how are you going?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks a lot for being here and thanks for supporting the series. We're just going to go into a little bit of the background episode. We talked a little bit about it and we thought it'd be useful for participants joining in the series, but also anyone coming along for a little bit of a background into South Australian cyber scene, what AustCyber does, as well as some local activities that are going on. So I've got my questions ready, and if you're ready to go, we'll get into it.
Let's do it.
All right. Can you talk a little bit about what AustCyber actually is? What are some of the key things that the organisation does, and just share that with us?
Yeah, sure, Tim. So AustCyber is the growth centre, the industry growth centre for cybersecurity for Australia. So that's a federal initiative which is supported by states and territories through the establishment of innovation nodes across the country by assisting at that local level to help grow the ecosystem. And so we have in AustCyber, we have three key missions, and that is to grow, to export, and to educate around cyber security. And at the local level, we have our own missions that we also put in place that support our local direction and capabilities as well. So for South Australian Node, we actually focus on our defence industry and its supply chain. We have a significant amount of defence contracts in South Australia. So for our node, it was a no-brainer that we actually focus on that area. We also look after space industry. We have the National Space Agency based here in Adelaide as well. So that too was a very obvious choice for the node to have. And in addition to that, we also look at autonomous systems and digital health. So how cyber relates to both of those, whether it is the security architecture of a driverless vehicle, for example, or a drone, or whether it's the privacy and management and security of data for health systems, for example.
So some pretty cool things with space and defence and health and all sorts of things that are available in the SA ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And so your role in particular is about cultivating the local ecosystem in South Australia, but importantly, it's connected as part of a national network. So you're not operating in a silo, you're helping support the local ecosystem, but then you're getting national messages, national coverage, national contribution to policy, but then also contributing at a state level as well. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. So the primary function of the nodes is to sort of bring sectors together. So bringing together the private sector, so industry, bringing together the academic sector and education sector alongside government. And so the node sort of acts as that connector to facilitate that collaboration across those sectors to make sure that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, essentially. So a good example of that is if we recognise that industry is telling us that they need a new focus of training for the state to make sure that we're getting the right skills through our workforce, then the academic sector is there to help build that, and the government is there to help support that happening. So the node facilitates that connectivity, I guess, of all of those things.
So that kind of leads us into our next question then. So we're talking about facilitation, and you just mentioned kind of the education academic sector contributing into skills. For people that aren't as familiar with cyber or that have really experienced with the cyber ecosystem, why is it important for Australia and South Australia in particular to be fostering cyber skills, cyber talent? Why cyber?
Well, look, we have an emerging sector, which is cybersecurity, alongside many new emerging areas of growth, and there is rapid growth in these areas. So this is just something we've not previously experienced before. This is a pace that is very, very new, and particularly hard to keep up with. And so cybersecurity is ultimately important for all of those new emerging sectors and the existing ones, to make sure that they can grow securely. So it's really important that we nurture and help the ecosystem grow, and for it to be as active and as vibrant as it can be. And it's just making sure that, you know, we're able to do it together as well, so that we're not working in segregation from one another across the country, that we've got that interconnectedness, that we know that what we're doing is making a difference and it's going in the right direction. So it's really important that we have a really well-supported ecosystem, and that's why neighbourhoods like the one that the SA Node sat in, the innovation neighbourhood down at Lot 14, is so important, because it creates a really organic atmosphere for that to happen. So it might be a corridor conversation that actually helps enable growth at a lot faster pace than it might have done to have a meeting scheduled for in 2 weeks' time, for example. So it really sort of helps foster that connectivity and interconnectedness a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it sounds critical with all the new types of industries that are being created, but also for organizations and companies and industries that have been around for a while, adapting to the new way of doing things online, digitally. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic at the moment. And then dealing with, you know, influx of different ways, whether it's, you know, CEOs getting hacked, through to personal security at home, through to a whole range of things. So I think, you know, cyber more and more is becoming just critical in everyday lives as well as business. That's
right. It's completely about the success of all those industries across the economy. So if we have somebody manufacturing a piece of technology, if they don't ensure that it's secure by design, they're not going to be as globally marketable or competitive in the market as the next person who perhaps has taken their tech through a robust testing capability to make sure that it is, you know, as robust as it needs to be and isn't going to introduce vulnerabilities into the marketplace. So it helps drive that reputation for Australia, and it helps make sure that we're positioned to be seen as a safe and trusted country to do business with. But it's also about that opportunity for economic growth. So cyber is enabling that economic growth across all industries, as well as bolstering and creating economic growth for its own industry too.
So let's jump into the next question. And so part of the key reason behind the video today and this sponsored series in itself is the new Cyber Traineeships program that South Australia has brought in. So can you tell us a little bit about the Cyber Traineeships, you know, what they're about, how long they've been going for, and everything about it?
So the Cybersecurity Traineeships are based on the Certificate 4 in Cybersecurity, which is provisioned through TAFE. Now, AustCyber in the establishment of that certification was an industry partner to help design that certification. So they have advocated for vocational pathways for people to enter into a cyber career for quite some time. And industry has certainly voiced the opinion that they need work-ready people who can implement practical skills as well as the knowledge and the academic knowledge that they've gained through a classroom. And that way we are sort of quicker to plug the gap of that skills that we're currently, skill shortage that we're currently feeling at the moment, which is significant. So there was definitely a demand there, and the Certificate 4 has helped to fill that. What we found that whilst the Certificate 4 offered that entry or an alternative entry level of training, the need to be able to get the practical experience alongside that was really important. And so traineeships were an obvious vocational pathway that would really serve industry well. And so the creation of those in SA has been something that the government here in South Australia has been very strongly working for. And the SA Node has advocated and supported for those to be established. And as a result, we've actually now got 3 streams of cybersecurity traineeship offerings in SA. And so we have an industry one where you can have new workers or existing workers upskilling or skilling themselves in cybersecurity. We also have a South Australian government traineeship, so somebody who particularly wants to work in the government sector is able to get a traineeship offering through there, which can provide quite a unique experience and insight into cybersecurity. It's certainly a different lens, certainly different types of data, different types of work environment to experience. And then we have a third traineeship, which is a school-based flexible traineeship. So this is about making that entry level even earlier and making sure that there's an early intervention with young people to make sure that they are aware of a career in cyber is an opportunity that they have available to them. That particular one uses a Cert 3 in ICT, but it has cybersecurity elective or modules, should I say, pulled down from the Cert 4 for them to utilise.
Great. So we're talking about a stream that's supporting students that are still at high school, for public servants that are interested in upskilling or learning more about cybersecurity, and then the final one being for industry professionals that are either looking to go into the cyber industry field or reskill.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a multitude of options there for them to be able to, for people to get access to cyber education and practical learning.
We'll be sharing this content with everyone from the program. So a little shout out to all the SA Cyber Edition mentees as part of the program. Then we'll go into the next question. So we've just talked about the Cyber Traineeship, how it came about and who's in it. Part of the reason for this series is the SA, or the South Australian Cyber Edition mentoring program. So could you tell us a little bit about your thinking about why you wanted to support that and what will be involved through the program? Because
these traineeships in South Australia are a nation first, we were the first state to have these traineeships available. It was so important for us to make sure that that first group of trainees really felt supported, really the greatest chance of success in what they were about to embark on. So because it hasn't been done before, it really was important to make sure that we wrapped some support around what it was that they were experiencing. We had heard through our Canberra node that OK Ready had a great product that we'd be able to use with their mentor matching platform and had some real positive feedback about how they'd ran that experience last year. So it was perfect timing and a perfect fit for what we were looking for. Got in touch with you, Tim, and here we are today. But really it was about making sure that the trainees had all of the support and recognising the importance of what a difference a mentor can make. So I've had mentors throughout my career over the years. I've found it particularly beneficial and rewarding experience to have them and have someone, stepping either straight out of school into a traineeship or transitioning into a new career perhaps later in life. This support mechanism really is so priceless for them. I imagine that a lot of people, it'd be quite a daunting experience to start on a new pathway that is very much unknown. So having that direct link into industry with a mentor and that real life insight for them to really understand how the industry works, maybe even sort of bust a few myths around what the perceptions of working in cyber are about and get to know and understand the depth and breadth of what a career in cyber can look like, was just a really obvious choice to be able to offer that out to the trainees here in SA.
Yeah, I think it's great. And when we were talking about from the design of the program that's evolved over time now, picking up from some of the original work that we did in Canberra and then into this new series, it's a good, there's our blooper.
There we go.
The lights just went off if that didn't pick that up for Paula. So one of the things that we actually talked about in the design and makeup was tapping into what AustCyber is doing generally, but specifically for the traineeship. So actually helping them foster a greater idea around, what is cyber? What are the different pathways? What does a career in cyber look like? What are some cyber trends that professionals are expecting to come out that might not be in the public knowledge yet? And share some of those insights. So I think the trainees that are going to be involved in SA Cyber Edition, or the mentees, really take advantage of this opportunity to connect in with your mentors, whether they be local or national, and just pick their brains about what they think about cyber, whether you are choosing to go into cyber full time, or whether this is something that you're doing the certificate in to just learn a little bit more and upskill yourself, or go back to your organization and actually kind of, educate others back into the workforce and into the organization that, hey, this cybersecurity thing, it's something we should take a look at.
So Tim, I wonder if you could maybe talk us through what impact, if any, the pandemic and COVID has had on the design of the program, from when you first started the project to where you're at now, and how that's impacted you at all.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously challenging for everyone in the cyber ecosystem, but for small startups like myself, very challenging, and then wanting to make sure that we weren't going to leave a whole cohort of people behind. As part of that, we go into lockdown, we shut borders where it's still going on rapidly around the globe. But we've got people that are still studying, we've got people that are still working, there's still a workforce that's going to need talent, and we've got a skills shortage in the space. Links below to the AustCyber sector competitiveness plan and the recent update to actually share some of those figures if anyone wants to do some additional reading as part of that. They've got some great snapshots there. So we were originally going to model the similar program for South Australia based on the pilot program that we did in the ACT, do a series of fireside chats, physical networking events where people could still handshake and do all those types of things. But then also do that kind of, intimate face-to-face talk to and listen to a role model, whether they be from cybersecurity, cyber education, cyber affairs, and just kind of share some of the insights. Obviously, because we were talking earlier in the year about, that restrictions were coming. So we made the decision early to, stop work on the physical events, which I think was a great idea. But then it was also, I've got my camera, there's another blooper, there's the microphone in the shot. So after we saw that the physical events were going to be changed and people weren't going to actually be able to meet, process evolved so that, we can still use the OK Ready mentoring app where people can virtually have mentoring experiences, meet on the application, get recommended to a mentor or a mentee based on our algorithm, begin that conversation, schedule a meeting. But then the second component of it, then rather than do the physical face-to-face fireside chat series, we're creating this YouTube series that you're on right now. So part of that is going to be, these are the couple of background episodes, but then we're going to be doing a similar scenario with the fireside chat, but then doing intimate interviews with cybersecurity role models, industry leaders, talking to them about their own experience, their career pathway, any insights that they've got into the cyber ecosystem. So hopefully that content is then useful for everyone watching, but also specifically to the people in the SA Cyber Edition program. So quite different than we had originally planned, and we're looking forward to seeing how this goes after Series 1 is complete.
That's great, Tim. And I really think that there's some bonus value that we've actually got out of the redesigned version of this program. We've managed to be able to sort of really extend the scope and the reach, I guess, as to the kind of content and I suppose the variety of people and roles that we will be able to connect people with that we perhaps would not have been able to get had we just been restricted to the initial design, which was to be very much in-person and physical presence here in SA. So I actually think that's a huge benefit as a byproduct of something that's been quite bad for people to experience, which is COVID. So
yeah,
there's always a silver lining, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, although it's very, anxiety driving to be talking on camera and those types of things, I think you're 100% right. Being more flexible with it and being able to do these, home studio interviews with, very high level C-level executives right through to recent graduates and a number of the people that we'll be having on the series that we might not have been able to align their schedules with when we were doing a physical event in Adelaide, and we're able to access some, local, national, potentially international talent. And then the second byproduct of it is it's now going to last over time. Next year's cohort can actually access the content. It'll still be relevant. It'll be people talking about their own personal journey, people outside of the sector, people that might not be enrolled in this year's program, or these traineeships, or people in the broader cyber ecosystem. And I think it adds a lot of value that way as well. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that, Tim. So I might just ask you now, Tim, what mentoring tips or advice have you got for people on the program?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I prepared a couple of base ones that have kind of been, tried, true and tested over the time that we've been doing OK Ready and working with a whole range of different partners and programs. I'm a big subscriber to the fact that there is not a one-size-fits-all mentorship. And as we've talked about in the first series, I like to refer to it sometimes as flash mentoring. It might be a point in time where someone specifically influences you or shares some information with you that helps demystify a situation or a career path, or gives you a little bit of contextual advice. Or it could be a more ongoing relationship where you're actually getting into a rhythm, meeting regularly, and working on a couple of key areas as part of that relationship. So I've got a couple here. The first one I've got is a mentor is not a coach. Generally, it's up to the mentee to drive the relationship. It's not like you're going to be at a boot camp and you're going to have the coach there and they're going, did you do this for your resume or any of those types of things? It's really up to the mentee to ask the mentor for advice, insights, and for the mentor to kind of hold up that mirror, and so that they can kind of get used to being that way as part of the relationship. The second one I'd say is setting expectations. And that's setting expectations early. So for anyone that's as part of this, the SA Cyber Edition mentoring program, or anyone that's doing mentoring at the moment, I think one of the first things you need to do is talk to your mentor and mentee and decide, what type of mentorship you're going to have going forward. Because you might not need a monthly meeting to kind of overcome some lack of insights into the industry. It might be a one-off video conference call like this, or a coffee when you're allowed to do that, and all those types of things, or even a simple tour of a workplace, so that people can actually understand more about, the difference between public, private, not-for-profit, government, and some of the workplaces from a culture fit. So setting expectations is number 2. So number 3 is mutual sharing. The mentee will undoubtedly have a whole heap of questions about, the industry or someone's job or those types of things. But equally, it can be very beneficial for the mentor to ask some questions as well and kind of learn from someone entering into the workforce or the ecosystem, whether they're a seasoned professional that's transitioning or someone that's straight out of school, because their experience is going to be very different. That mutual sharing is going to really benefit both parties. The fourth one is time. So it's really important, particularly for the mentees, that they are respectful of the mentor's time. These are busy professionals. They have a day job, most likely. It's important that you come prepared into the meeting, and if you're going to commit to doing things, don't waste their time. I mean, they're giving up their time voluntarily. Often is the case. It's the case for this program here. But the second thing is for the mentor, it's important to be engaged and present. So, from a time perspective, don't try and, cram the mentee in 5 minutes before the end of your lunch break or something like that. Schedule a proper meeting. It's a lot more accessible to be able to do it now via video conference or a whole range of different areas, or it could be just within the OK Ready platform where you're just asking a couple of questions and try to get back to them, as you would normally as a business email return or something else that's from that professional nature. So 5 is make sure you ask the big questions. And so it's not just simply about going in and going, so what do you do? And kind of leaving it pretty open or closed from a response perspective. It's teasing out, how did you get to be where you are today as the Chief of Cyber for the South Australian government, or, the CEO of AustCyber for Australia, or, the CEO that's done a couple of raising rounds for a local South Australian startup. All very different journeys. And so, you want to unpack that a little bit as well. And similarly, from the other perspective, if a mentee's kind of asking some questions, some self-reflection can help as part of that process. So, if someone's going, I really want a career in cyber because everyone tells me it's good. You really, you've got to tease that out a little bit more and go, what are some of your skills? What are your passions? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, or whatever your methodology is going to be as part of that process. But it's important to kind of, what are some big things that you can ask, as well as, the basics of it all.
Yes.
So the last one is it's important to diversify your portfolio. Don't put all your eggs in the one basket. Mentors and mentees, very different backgrounds, very different aspirations, very different skill sets. There's not a one size that fits all. So you might match with a mentor that has really great experience and can share their insights about how they were doing signals in the military and then went into a startup and then found their way into government and have this rich experience. But equally as important, a recent graduate that's been hired at KPMG or one of the big 4 companies can actually give some fantastic insights about, well, here's how I learn about cybersecurity through my TAFE course or through my university degree, or they had a graduate program, and here's what the recruitment process was like, and I'm part of this great team and they're working on innovative things, but they're very different pathways. So it's important, you might connect with a mentor or a mentee around a couple of just, simple questions that help point you in the right direction. But then you might find someone that, there's a real culture fit with, and you're going to stick with that person for a number of months as part of it. So each relationship's going to be different, and that's why it's important to diversify your mentors and mentees. So that's kind of all the tips that I've got. And as I said at the start, it's not a one size fits all, but they're some of the ones that we've found to be tried and true that I particularly pay credence to from that perspective. Those again that's a mentor is not a coach. Setting expectations early, mutual sharing, time, so be respectful of time, ask the big questions, and diversify your mentoring portfolio.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tim. There's some really great tips there for anybody looking at getting into mentoring or having a mentor. So thank you very much.
No, I mean, thanks for asking. It's always good to share. And, at OK Ready, we've been doing this for a couple of years now. And so, they're just our insights, but, you should Google it, you get advice from others as well. There's not a one size fits all. It's the end of this episode. What you'll see next in the channel is actually our very first featuring special guest, CEO of a very well-known company, and she'll be sharing her insights as part of her journey, what her company's doing, and how she sees mentoring and the values of that. Stay tuned and check out the next episode coming up.